The Introvert's Guide to Small Talk. Here's something a lot of introverts believe about themselves, but isn't really quite true. They tell themselves they don't like small talk because it seems too shallow. They prefer depth because conversations about the weather or weekend plans feel almost insignificant and kind of a waste of time, and there's better things that they can be doing with their time. And while that story is flattering, it positions the discomfort as a sign of intelligence. Proof that they are someone who thinks more seriously about specific topics. But here's what's really happening. The resistance to small talk isn't just about a depth of preference. It's about discomfort with a specific social ritual, an important social ritual, one that serves a purpose that a lot of introverts dismiss before really understanding. And that dismissal is costing them something significant in their careers, in their relationships, in their ability to access that very depth of connection and conversation that they want. Too many introverts optimize for information, not connection. Here's what I mean by that. Most highly intelligent people who are also introverted approach conversations with a very specific goal: to exchange ideas, to solve problems, to learn something new, to provide value. In this model, conversation is a vehicle for information. And in the conversation, if the information being exchanged is perceived low value, well, then what's the point?
Please, arrive at the point.
All of a sudden, small talk feels like a low value exchange of time. Now, that line of thinking to relate to ideas does make sense, but it's really a misapplication of the logic. Because here's what most conversations, especially the early ones when you first meet somebody, are actually doing. They're not primarily exchanging information or big ideas. They're building something that has to exist before the exchange of value and big ideas can take place. They're building comfort, familiarity, a sense of safety that allows two people to move into something more real. Most people connect emotionally before intellectually. This isn't just a preference, it is the structure for how trust forms. And small talk, however trivial it might seem to be on the surface, is the mechanism for how that initial emotional safety gets built. The biggest mistake that most highly intelligent and introverted people make is skipping this step, either avoiding it entirely or just trying to rush through it real quick. Get to the point, get to the idea. But you can't skip it. You can either rush through it awkwardly or avoid it entirely. And both produce the same result: a conversation that doesn't have a foundation to actually go anywhere or build off of. So real smart people who are introverted often skip the conversation that builds the trust because they're eager to get to the conversation where they can exchange ideas. Small talk is not about the topic, it's about the signal it sends. And this is the part that most people miss entirely. The weather isn't all that interesting. The person you're talking to, what they did over the weekend, you don't really care too much about what they say, right? Sports teams, statistics, your morning coffee, how you slept, the traffic on the drive into the office. None of that content actually matters. And intelligent and introverted people who are more orientated towards content, they feel this right away and immediately conclude that small talk is a waste of time.
Do not waste my time.
But they're evaluating the wrong thing. The topics of small talk are almost completely irrelevant. What small talk actually communicates operates underneath the topic or the content, in the tone, the ease, the willingness to show up casually without an agenda. What you're signaling with small talk isn't, I find what you're saying to be really interesting.
Not.
You're signaling something much more fundamental. I'm approachable. You are safe with me. I'm actually interested in you as a person, not just the content or the information that you might have. Every culture has social rituals, greetings, pleasantries, and they vary enormously across cultures, but they do exist everywhere, because everywhere humans need a mechanism to signal non-threat and establish a basic level of safety before people can open up. Small talk is that mechanism. It's a trust-building ritual. It's an exchange of comfort, not an exchange of big ideas. And once you understand it that way, the entire frame shifts. You stop evaluating small talk as if this topic is interesting or it isn't. You start evaluating it on whether it's doing its intended job, lowering defenses, creating ease, signaling that you're safe to have a cool chat with. And suddenly the question isn't, all right, how do I deal with this person's small talk long enough to get to the next point? It's how do I get good at this specific ritual so I can navigate it naturally and then open the door to maybe what I want. And there's something underneath the surface of that I hate small talk because it doesn't add value. There's something there that needs to be looked at. For many intelligent, introverted people, and this can be uncomfortable to say sometimes, the discomfort around small talk isn't about the conversation. It's really about the fear of seeming ordinary. Small talk does not give you the vehicle to demonstrate your intelligence. There's no opportunity to make a sharp observation, to display your expertise, or to say something that'll help you stand out. You're just exchanging pleasantries at the same level as everyone else. And if you're someone who's used to receiving recognition for your ideas, or who's used to being the go-to person who's asked their opinion during a meeting, and being on the same emotional footing as someone in a casual situation almost feels like a loss of status, like you're hiding something, you're not being your full self. And there's also a related fear. Without projecting your own interesting ideas, that you're not going to seem as an interesting person. Like, take away your expertise and your experience, and what's left might not be that interesting to other people. So you try to rush through small talk as fast as you can, or you avoid it altogether, or you push towards the seriousness before the other person is ready. Yeah, okay, let's get on with it. Not because you prefer depth, but because depth feels safer. Here's the irony. That strategy produces the opposite effect of what you're trying to. The smartest person in the room isn't always the one with the most interesting ideas. It's often the one who makes other people feel interesting. And that skill, genuine curiosity about other people, the ability to make someone feel comfortable and at ease, the ability to show up without a political agenda, that's precisely what gets blocked when you try to rush through or cut off small talk. Remember this, because this is critical. Relationships grow in the spaces between conversations. A lot of people assume that the most important moments are the biggest ones, the major presentations, the big meetings that everyone's involved in when the important decisions get made. But that is not where most professional relationships are really built. They're really built in the hallway on the way to those meetings, in the 5 minutes before the call starts, after the event or the meeting, when people are just being themselves. These low-stakes interactions are not filler, they're infrastructure. Repeated small interactions build familiarity. Familiarity reduces the social friction that makes everything harder. Hard conversations, disagreements, requests for help. The people who feel comfortable with each other move faster, communicate more honestly, and recover from conflict more easily than people who've only ever interacted in formal or high-stakes contests. Trust compounds through consistency, not intensity. You don't build professional relationships through one important meeting or interaction. You build it through accumulated small moments over time that create a felt sense of knowing someone. The colleague who's chatting with you while walking to the meeting isn't just wasting time, they're making deposits. And by the time the meeting starts, they've created a relational context that makes everything else inside the meeting go more smoothly. Careers are often built in 5-minute conversations that just seem too ordinary to matter. Small talk is an investment, not a destination. The goal isn't to become great at talking about nothing. That's not what I'm saying, and that is not what socially intelligent people do. They don't love small talk as an end itself. They view it for what it is. The beginning. Every deep relationship starts somewhere. Every meaningful professional connection had an ordinary conversation to start. And the people who navigate those conversations with ease, who are warm without being performative, who are curious without being intense, who ask questions without having an agenda behind them, those are the ones who create conditions for relationships to really develop. People very rarely skip straight to being vulnerable. They arrive there one ordinary conversation at a time. The trick isn't to fake enthusiasm about topics and conversations you don't care about. It's understanding the purpose of small talk itself to enter into it authentically, to show up with general curiosity about the other person. And here's the thing about genuine curiosity. It makes small talk significantly easier because you stop trying to perform interest you don't have and start actually looking for what's generally interesting in the person in front of you, which is almost always there if you're actually paying attention. So here we go, 5 simple steps that you can use today to make yourself much better at small talk right away. Step number 1, shift your evaluating criteria. Stop asking, is this topic interesting or relevant to me? And start asking, is this interaction building comfort? Those are 2 completely different questions. One evaluates the content of the exchange. The other evaluates if the exchange is doing its job. Small talk that builds ease and makes the other person feel seen or heard, that's effective small talk, regardless about what you're talking about. And once you change what you're actually measuring, small talk stops feeling like this annoying thing that you have to do. It starts feeling like a competent execution of a very important social function. Step number 2, get curious about the person, not the topic. Almost all small talk is just surface level. Underneath it is a person with a perspective or a preference or an experience that could be really interesting. A conversation about the weather outside is boring, but a conversation about why somebody moved from a warmer, sunnier climate to a colder, cloudier, rainier climate, that's interesting. Weekend plans reveal something about what someone actually values. Family time, sports, relaxation. Those are threads that are worth following. The topic isn't the conversation, it's the person you're having the conversation with. Next time you're engaging in small talk with someone, practice looking past the topic and looking at the person. Ask one question that follows a thread about what they said rather than just skipping to the next thing. That's the move that takes it from a ritual exchange into something that's potentially much more deeper and real. Step number 3, lower the standard for what's worth saying. Most intelligent, introverted people are self-editing their small talk in real time to see if it's interesting or how they can speed it up, right? They have an observation or something ready to go, ready to say, but they edit in real time and they check themselves and say, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. Lower the bar significantly. What feels ordinary to you? A casual conversation, an easy question, a brief or genuine reaction to something they said is often exactly what the other person was hoping for. The problem isn't that you have nothing to say, it's that you've defined what's worth saying doesn't make the cut. Step number 4, think of it as a front porch, not the living room. Nobody walks into a stranger's home and sits down and immediately goes into a deep conversation. They knock, they exchange a few words, they wait to be invited in. Like a vampire, kind of. That process, brief, somewhat ritualized, low stakes, that's what makes the deeper conversation inside the house possible. When you're engaging in small talk, you're on the front porch. Your job isn't to have the big important conversation that you're waiting to have. Your job is to be the kind of person that feels easily to invite in. And once you see it as that's your job in the moment, it becomes so much easier, the entire process. And step number 5, this is one of my recommendations in almost every single video on my channel, make one person feel genuinely visible and important this week. Not through a performance, not through strategic questions, through actually paying attention. Following up on something they said with a deeper question. Remembering something they said and returning to it. Noticing something specific about their experience and asking about it. The quality of general attention is what makes someone feel interesting. And feeling interesting around someone is one of the most powerful social interactions there is. And it's also the thing that makes small talk so meaningful. Not because the topic was so fascinating, probably wasn't, but because it made the other person feel seen in the middle of a conversation. And if you want to go much more in depth on this, I have another video, I'll have it linked somewhere around here, how to never run out of things to say. Check that video out after you finish this one. If you're someone who craves meaningful conversations, who finds yourself impatient to get with all the small talk and the pleasantries and just get to something that's actually more important, this video is not asking you to become someone who just loves chatting with everyone about nothing. I'm asking you to rethink what small talk is and to reevaluate how important it is. It is not the opposite of meaningful conversation. It's the bridge to get there. It's the front porch to the house before being invited in. The brief, ordinary exchange that signals comfort, that signals familiarity, and opens the door to everything else you want in conversation. You don't just skip the front porch because you want to be in the living room. You spend a genuine moment there so the living room becomes available. The conversations you want to have are already there waiting for you. They're waiting on the other side of the small talk conversations you've been trying to avoid. But I want to hear from you about this. Are you someone who just, like me, naturally, I'm very curious about everybody. I ask anybody, stranger in line, I don't care. I have small talk with everyone. Or are you someone who is more introverted and is just like, no, small talk, I don't like it, I don't like chatting with people? Drop a comment, let me know. And if you want to go much more in depth on this topic, I'll have a link right down in the description to my Substack article. And if you've made it this far in the video, I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate you. Please consider subscribing.